Documentaries are about the people that you meet and the stories you can tell. Stories of tragedy, laughter, hope and desperation, across faraway lands or right here in your own backyard. This podcast brings these stories to you, the listener, so that you can experience the adventures of documentary filmmaking in audio form while embarking on daily adventures of your own. Welcome to Barefoot Media's Stories Within Stories podcast with your host, Simon Holland. Nick Petrou is the founder of MTG Freo, a Fremantle-based community that hosts regular games of Magic the Gathering, aka the greatest card game ever invented. The group has grown to 75 members in under a year and is underpinned with the principles of acceptance and inclusivity. Except for blue players, you are still unwelcome. Without further ado, we welcome Nick to the show. Welcome to the show, Nick Petrou.
Oh, thanks for having me, Simon. I really appreciate it.
Now, I ran into you on the most Fremantle way possible. And a beautiful summer's day, walking past, and you guys are at the table at the outside of the Orient, pints deep in the afternoon, playing a game. What game were you playing?
Magic the Gathering, specifically the Commander format.
And I was walking past and I was like, are you guys playing Magic the Gathering? Because I have not seen that really since high school. And like, oh my God, this is Magic and Freo. And so now you've grown that, it was called MTG Freo, and it was a sort of a Facebook group. Now you've grown this into a whole community, and how many members would you have?
On the Discord right now, we've got, I think, 75. All right. Yeah.
I'm blowing your mind. So you clearly got hustle. You clearly got ability to connect people, bring things together under a common banner. First of all, we should probably, I don't think a lot of people, it's still pretty like underground, even though we think it's a massive game ourselves. So tell us a little bit about the game of Magic itself.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure that it's been in print since 93, which was the year that I was born. And since then, I think they've made like 25,000 unique cards. We play a format of the game called Commander, which is a multiplayer free-for-all format, as opposed to what the game initially started off as, which was just a 1v1. It was a much more competitive format where the objective was to win. With the Commander format in our community, the objective is to have a good time. It's a social format. You're telling a story together in a similar way that you would with something like Dungeons and Dragons. So it's all about having a giggle, not about winning the game. It's got like politics involved in it in the same way that a game of Monopoly has. You can make deals, you can break deals, you can stab people in the back. Yeah. If you want to. Of course, you don't want to erode your trust with the entire community. Yeah. You can totally stab someone in the back if you want to.
It's essentially a card game where you play a wizard and you
Planeswalker.
You cast spells and creatures, fireballs, counter spells and mystery. Everyone's got a different kind of strategy, a different deck. And with 25,000 unique cards, people can really put their own stamp on how they're going to play each game.
Yep, absolutely. So essentially there are 5 colors of mana generated by a different land types. Mountains generate red mana, islands generate blue, forests generate green, plains generate white, and swamps generate black mana. Each of those colors have their sort of different strengths and weaknesses. I love playing mono red. It's all about fire and power and passion. So you come out the gate. Yeah,
sure.
I
cast this passion at you.
Yeah, for sure. You come out the gate swinging. Yeah. And you run out of steam pretty quickly, so you got to finish it quick.
Yeah.
So I love playing that color for sure. That's my favorite.
Yeah. And what color do you hate playing against?
Blue.
Okay.
Don't even have to think about that because that's the color where someone will counterspell your shit. So you go to do something epic, and then someone just puts a stick in your spokes.
Yeah. Okay.
And you go over the handlebars, and it doesn't feel good.
What does it feel like when you're in the game of Magic? You know, I guess an early comparable version would be chess or something where you kind of, if someone's walking past looking at you, you guys are doing a whole lot of nothing, talking, drinking beer. But what's really going on in your head?
I'm pretty attentive to
nothing because you're a mono red player. There's not much going on.
Essentially, with me, I'm looking at the game a bit more reactively. Like I'm watching other players and seeing if they're getting excited, like tapping their leg because they're excited, they've got a big play. And I'm thinking, how can I thwart this?
Yeah.
A lot of the time. It's a lot to do with how can I play my hand in the most efficient way, and a lot to do with how much mana, the resource in the game, should I leave open in case someone tries to do something to me. so I can respond to it. So often that's what I'm thinking about, trying to be as efficient as possible, not only so I can play a better game, but also just to make the game go a little bit faster because they tend to drag out. And I want to make sure that everyone, when they come down to us a night at MTG Freo, is playing multiple games instead of just getting bogged down in a single game that isn't enjoyable. So trying to make the games dynamic and fun. I play decks that make things happen because I want to move things forward and just keep the energy levels right up. Yeah.
And so tell us about MTG Freo. How did it come about? What was the impetus and the idea?
So about a year ago, my friend Dave and I were playing Magic the Gathering just at a cafe, and we were basically just thinking, if we build it, they will come. And you're direct evidence of that. Like, you walk past us at a pub playing Magic the Gathering, you saw us and you're like, is that Magic? And we're like, oh yeah, it is. Like, dude, here's my number. Come play with us, you know?
Yeah.
That's how this whole community has been growing.
Yeah.
And we don't really have any online presence at all. Like, it's all word of mouth. It's all me and my friends, like, just seeing people on the street interested in us, and instead of just ignoring them, being like, hey man, like, do you want to learn about this game? Do you want to come and play? They're like, oh, it looks like it might be a significant investment. I'm like, it's not really. You can use our decks.
Yeah.
We're just going to drink some beer and slap some cards together, you know? It's growing very organically, and we'll use posters and word of mouth, but I don't want to do ad campaigns or anything like that. I want it to feel authentic. I want it to feel Freo.
Yeah.
You know, in Freo, you walk down the street, you bump into someone.
Opportunity knocks.
Next minute, you see them in the pub and you're like, oh, I saw you on the street. Let's be friends. You know, like, that's the vibe of Magic.
Tell us about the culture itself. What sort of people are you typically drawn towards Magic?
There are some people in the MTG community that struggle socially. And I want to build a community where they can enter it and sort of flourish. So instead of just ignoring those sorts of people, because it could potentially damage the community that I already have, I want to open it up to them so they can open up, because a lot of people have just had a bit of a bad run and they've struggled in school, and maybe they're using MTG as an outlet to express power because they lack it elsewhere in their life. For them, they might enter the community and be like that for the first couple of sessions, but after a while, you see them start to relax a little bit and understand that, like, they can... I don't know, I lost my train of thought there. But
I can edit from that last word. So, because when I was playing in high school, I guess it was really escapism. You know, we were kind of... This is really simplistic because it was the 90s. And I don't think you can really drag the culture from one era into the other. And then, you know, but they were like straight up other nerds. That's what, you know, because there's kids playing sport, playing AFL or whatever. And then there's, you know, the guys studying academically. But they're like, you like computer games, you like whatever this is, and you're reading fantasy books. You guys are the nerds. And that was kind of the thing, right? These days, it's not really like that at all. People are gathering and becoming a tribe. And this is like a real tribe for these people.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, we get people from all walks of life, to be honest, like people that wouldn't initially identify as a nerd, I suppose, are interested in the game because a big part of the game is the social aspect. Like, we're a community first and foremost. Like, these people that I play with tomorrow, I'm going to one of their birthdays at their house and we're going to drink beer and have a good time. You know, like, these are my friends now.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's very, very community driven, all sorts of different people from all sorts of different walks of life. And this game is binding us together.
That's awesome. It's like the freedom to just walk in, be here yourself, but on the battlefield, this is it. This is what we're doing. Because
the game, you know, you get to express yourself creatively. You build a deck, you know, you're drawing from a pool of however many thousands of cards, creating something like a deck that's 100 cards. You have an idea, you can basically make it happen in MTG. So it's ticking the creative box for me big time, especially after not writing fiction anymore. This is satisfying me creatively. So creative, also competitive, you know, like there are some games where you're like, oh man, it felt good to win that.
Yeah.
You know, I really worked for that. And sometimes that is an element of the game that is enjoyable. And then there's also the social element, you know, so it's ticking all three of those boxes. And I think if you've got those three sorted in your life, you're going to be pretty damn happy.
Absolutely. And community is a huge thing. People live like much longer for having community all the way through. I guess it's a bit of a shock that you've got 75 members.
Yes. Honestly, about a month ago, maybe 6 weeks, something like that, a couple of weeks prior to that, I'd offhandedly mentioned doing some sort of MTG winter event. I'd been a bit slack with that, but then one of the group members was like, are we still doing this thing? And I was like, you know what? Yeah, we are. And just walked out into Freo and I'm like, I'm going to make this happen. 2 weeks later, we did the event and I was expecting we'd maybe get like 16 to 20 people. I would have been really happy with 16. I think 32 people rocked up.
Yeah.
They loved it. The venue were like, that was amazing. Do you want to make this your home? And we're like, okay. So now every Wednesday we have a dedicated venue, Hybrid Warehouse on Quarry Street, right next door to my apartment. Like, I'm living the dream, right? It's kind of been snowballing. Like, our Discord moved from like 35 to now 70 members after that event. Like, this was a month ago, dude.
Yeah.
Like, this is my whole life right now. Like, I've slowed down on my paid work so much because I'm obsessed with this thing.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'm spending all day on Canva, emailing people, thinking about creative ways that we can market this thing other than just buying Facebook ads, figuring out where I can go to network and make connections. And I went to Pixel on the weekend. It was like a gaming convention in Perth.
Oh, right.
At the convention center, which I didn't know about until the actual day of the thing, which shocks me because that's my community. I don't know what I've been doing.
Yeah.
Went to that, ended up making like pretty good friends with the guy who runs D&D Fremantle. And now we're going to collab and just bring our communities together with the ultimate goal of, I don't know, let's say in 5 years from now, having a dedicated community space for nerds in Fremantle, which currently does not exist. Like, people have tried to set up game stores and stuff here before, and I think it keeps failing. I'm assuming it has something to do with rental rates. It's pretty steep.
Yeah.
But what we want to do is set up not only a game store, but a cafe and a bar. So then it's retaining that Freo vibe. We don't want it to feel like a local game store, which can be pretty stilted. And yeah, I think we want it to be distinctly Fremantle. So that's on the cards now, which is super exciting. And I'm rambling, but I'm going to tell you also about this other opportunity. So a couple of guys in the group are super involved in like the youth space. So we reached out to the city recently to talk about just funding in general for MTG Freo. So then I'm not paying for the booster boxes anymore, you know, that's really what it is. We reached out to the council, and just coincidentally, the woman who picked up the phone plays Magic the Gathering. Son plays Magic the Gathering. She was unable to help us with where MTG Freo is at right now, get funding, because we're not an actual business. I'm going to do that soon.
Yeah.
She was unable to help us in that way, but she was like, well, we've been getting calls from this kid all the time, and he's like 10 or something like that, and so keen to set up an MTG community for kids. We talked to him because he was just shredding all of his friends and he wants some new competition
challenges.
Great kid. So she put us in touch with...
He's like the Bobby Fischer of Magic, and we just found him in Freo.
He's a gun. And he and his mum and Caleb and Mason, which are the ones that are into the youth stuff, part of MTG Freo, we all met up on Tuesday with him and his mum. And since then, we've spoken to that woman from the city again. And basically, I'm pretty sure, I don't want to say certainly, but I'm pretty sure we've secured funding for a youth program based out of Fremantle Library.
Yeah.
So that's happening. On the 24th, we're getting together. We're going to be running Magic the Gathering for kids.
Yeah.
MTG Freo Foundations. It's wild, man.
Well, in my experience, it's growing fast and it's got momentum because it's a good idea. And there was a need and you found the need. And like any business, this is just going to take off like wildfire. But luckily, it's got you as a driving force. I think that's an important part of it, is to have someone that's motivated and go, you know, I'm going to eat needles for the next 6 months, but down the track, there's potential win. That's part of that. Delayed gratification is a big part of building something that's important to a lot of people. So, and like I said, okay, let me give you, as a long-time nerd growing up around Freo, there was a place called Intergalactic Trading Zone. And it was on like the backhand side, you know, where like the markets is, and then there's a big car park. I forgot the name, shit with the streets, and a police station and that. And then there's a piano store that's like abandoned now.
Random.
Yeah. It was like next
Sounds
to
haunted.
Yeah, it's like it's probably isn't haunted by people. It was like a big thing called Intergalactic Trading Zone, and it was all of that stuff. Like we were playing Warhammer at the time. So, you know, it had all the Warhammer and Necromunda and 40K. And you could play tournaments and stuff, and Magic was a big part of that as well. And that place was pumping. Like, so many people are into it, you know, because you've got the 80s generation coming from Dungeons and Dragons. You know, if you're not playing American football, you're in the basement playing Dungeons and Dragons. It's like kind of the counterculture of what that stuff on the surface was doing. And then you've got the 90s kids growing up with computer games, you know, so you're growing up with like Atari, Master System, Super Nintendo. If you get into PC games, like, you know, at the night when you got Diablo, Command & Conquer, Warcraft, all that coming out, right? That was unbelievably golden era of gaming. And so nerd culture has generational traction, and everybody gathered at this place. Now, at some point that went extinct and nothing really else popped up. There was Games Workshop tried to self-franchise. They're the guys that do Warhammer.